welcome to part 17 and the last episode of my webcast series about a mission flown by the VIII Air Force on December 24th, 1944. In this episode we will take a look at the statistical data of this mission. A sortie was credited to those who passed the 05 degrees east line. Therefore, the number of dispatched aircraft can be higher than the number of sorties credited. Also, a sortie does not necessarily mean the aircraft actually attacked or dropped their bombs. For the numerical data, we categorize the following: aircraft in total less unused spares, in other words dispatched, number of sorties, and the number of those who actually bombed. During the morning, already 5 aircraft were lost during takeoff incidents. Another 15 aircraft were lost prior to the target, 2 B-24s of the 2nd Division and 13 B-17s of the 3rd Division. This was less than 1% of the total number of aircraft dispatched this day. Data for the next slides were taken from this mission report. It is a summary of operations with handwritten notes. It is likely these numbers were not fully correct. Especially the number of losses was not correct, but it seems very plausible that at the time this report was written there were still few unknowns. The number of bombs dropped is the amount of bombs times their weight in pounds. The total amount was again times 2, which matches in the weight in tonnage. To be honest, I am not sure if these pounds and tonnage matches the metric system. The 1st Division dispatched 594 aircraft, including 55 flying with the 3rd Division. 523 of them were credited with a sortie. 522 actually bombed. Most of those who were not credited with a sortie were 351st and 457th Group B-17s, who were recalled in the afternoon. A grand total of 1166 tons of explosives was dropped, of which around 65% of them on the primary target. The 2nd Division dispatched up to 629 aircraft. 615 of them were credited with a sortie, and 606 of those actually bombed. The 2nd Division dropped a total of 1616 tons of bombs, of which 82% of those were dropped on the primary targets. The 3rd Division dispatched 807 B-17s. 797 of them were credited with a sortie, with 751 actually bombing. 1,550 tons of explosives was dropped by the 3rd Division, of which 73% of those were dropped on the primary targets. A grand total of 432 aircraft received combat damage. This is roughly 21% of the total dispatched aircraft. 336 of those were categorized as Cat A, which meant minor damage and repair completed within 36 hours. The other 96 aircraft suffered more damage, and some of those never flew again. The total numbers for the 8th Fighter Command, including the scout forces, were as follows: 891 sorties were flown, of which 866 were credited and 849 were listed as effective. I am not sure though what the difference is between a credited sortie and an effective sortie. A further 11 P-51s of the 353rd Fighter Group provided support for a couple of recce missions overhead Germany. If we add up the total numbers for all three divisions of the 8th Air Force, then a total of 2,030 aircraft were dispatched. 1,935 of them were credited with a sortie and 1,879 actually bombed. The number of dispatched aircraft passed the 2,000 mark in the afternoon when both 351st and 457th became airborne for their mission that later was recalled. The total amount of aircraft including spares is slightly higher, 2,042. I used the book Losses of the US 8th and 9th Air Forces Volume 5 as a source for the figures about the casualties. The 8th Air Force and the 8th Fighter Command suffered the following losses on personnel. 85 were killed in action. 25 were killed on operational mission. 4 are still missing in action. And 33 were taken prisoners of war. This concludes my webcast series about the mission of December 24 of 1944. By no means it is the complete story. I would like to thank those who have helped me with information and gave me feedback on this subject. It is my hope that these webcast series does credit to those who actually flew this mission and played their part so that we can live in freedom today. We will remember them.